The moon is one of the more dreaded tarot cards to draw, and not necessarily without good reason. This card, unlike other cards in the deck which show the more positive aspects of the moon, speaks here about a fear of the unknown, a world of illusion and a mirror which shows us things that we don't really want to see. Even over on the Rider-Waite deck, we can see a very melancholic card, a card drenched in sadness and madness, with the dogs baying at this rather wistful looking inverted moon face. On the Tree of Life, the moon joins Netzach with Malkuth, which takes us down to the very bottom of the Tree of Life, and so it's taking the Seeker of Truth as far away as they can get from Kether, that spiritual light and love at the top of the tree. It's showing a facing of reality, a facing of things that we found hard to accept. And yet, because Netzach is associated with victory, there is a get out in this. It's showing that we can still take victory and rise above these things at the same time. On the bottom of the card, our Hebrew character is the letter of Kof, and this word translated to English means the back of one's head, and that's what the character is actually supposed to represent in its pictorial form. And so this is showing, if we look at a spliced image of the side of one's head, it's that area right at the back of the brain, of which some speak about as being associated with pleasure responses and fear responses. And it's also, because it's right at the very far back of the head and the brain, is a symbol here of things that we don't see. So in other words, the subconscious mind. And of course the subconscious mind is something which is said to be working all the time in the background and influences the world of the conscious. And the astrological symbol, which we can also see at the bottom, is Pisces. Pisces is absolutely associated with that subconscious mind, and so you have a connection between them there. Pisces is, of course, an astrology sign which is very psychic and intuitive. Pisceans are said to be into spirituality and artistry and so on and so forth. Pisces is ruled by the planet Neptune, which is a god of the sea. The sea is ruled by the moon, and the sea and the moon have a relationship with each other on the physical plane, of course, as well as in the worlds of the spiritual and the mystic. Neptune's qualities in mythology are about visions and dreams and these watery depths and all the myths associated with it, which are in themselves as well qualities of the moon. And in that respect, there can be the positive aspects of the moon, and there can also be the more challenging aspects of the moon as well: obstacles, illusion, deception, and so on. And so when we look at the actual symbols on the card here, let's have a look at the lower half of the card first. And you can see here a beetle in the lower half of the card holding onto a solar disc. This is the Kefra, and this means, if you translate it, he who is coming into being. And so it represents a sun god, of course, in ancient Egyptian mythology. The solar disc here, therefore, is the sun, or in other words, the conscious mind. And the conscious mind is that in this symbology which would descend down into the subconscious mind in order to confront our fears, in order to look at the things that we don't want to see, and to come to terms with them and understand that those things are holding us back and we have to confront them in order to move on. The scarab is one of the most powerful symbols in ancient Egyptian beliefs, and if you're going to study ancient Egyptian cosmology, you're going to come across these images of scarabs, and you're going to see them as symbols of the sun, as well as potent symbols of resurrection, transformation, and even of a protective god, such as what we had with the goddess Nuit before. You may see a scarab beetle known as a dung beetle, and this is because it rolled balls of dung along the ground, and this is actually what it would use to eat. This is its food. However, this has given way to an entire belief that the god Kefra, the god that this is based on, rolls the sun across the sky. And it's a type of microcosm, a macrocosm thing, the very small beetle rolling its dung, imposed upon the macrocosm of the god rolling the sun. and therefore it relates to when the sun first rises, or in the ancient Egyptian belief, rising from the underworld, and therefore a resurrection, a new birth of the day, a transformation of the darkness of the night into the new day coming at the dawn. You can also see here some red waves and some blue waves, and they're actually creating huge, great big wave-like patterns all along the bottom of the card. These are symbols of the sea and the influence of the moon upon the sea. And yet here we can actually see a difference between the Thoth and the Rider-Waite decks. If we look at the Rider-Waite, the water appears to be relatively still, and we have a crab coming out of it. The crab talking about something coming out of the subconscious mind, so the crab is the subconscious rising from the depths of the seas below it. Where here on the Thoth deck, the water is moving, it's going up and down, and it's multiple waves, suggesting more of a cyclical nature to things. And as well as just one symbol of the subconscious, we have the god Kefra here rolling the sun, and so it's giving you the opportunity of the transformation, the opportunity of the resurrection there as well. So it's giving like a little bit of hope to the constant movements of the tides and the illusions of it all. We can also see on the top of the card, of course, here the very prominent symbols, and the most prominent symbols on the moon card being Anubis. Anubis being a very popular god in ancient Egypt, and he is one of those types of gods of whom is a guider of souls. Anubis's responsibility is to be a ferryman, if you like, a guider of newly dead souls, of newly released souls into that new realm of consciousness from the realm of earth that they experience throughout their lives into the new realm, the realm of the afterlife. And all of the images of Anubis show this type of guidance and of preparation of the dead. Is also associated with embalming, and many images of Anubis also show the god Thoth. The god Thoth taking down notes, recording the wisdom and the lessons learned and all this type of thing. And so on the Thoth card, Anubis here is that guider of the souls in the darkness, in the illusion, as they pass out of the conscious world, life, and into the subconscious world of death or resurrection and so on. And you can see that Anubis is holding the Ankh in his hand. And here the Ankh, as well as that symbol of the continuity of life, is an astrological symbol, because this Ankh is made out of a conglomerate of the symbols of Neptune and the symbols of Venus. And Neptune rules Pisces, the sea and the fish, as we've seen, and Venus is exalted within Pisces, and so that's what that is going at there. The figure, however, on the left-hand side is not Anubis. This is the god of Set, and so here we have I know they look very similar to those of whom don't study hieroglyphs, but Set's characteristics are quite different. He has a narrower nose or snout, he has a relatively longer neck, he has longer and bigger ears, and his Ankh is different, quite importantly. His Ankh is made out of the symbol of Mercury, which is a planet which is an opposite to the detriment of Pisces. And so Mercury here is the physical mind. It's on the left, of course, the left brain, the right brain that we had before. It's the world of rational thinking, scientific thinking, which of course isn't very good to help you understand the subconscious mind, which is more amorphous and more subtle, and therefore difficult to understand with equations and logical thought. Set is a god associated with war in ancient Egypt, and therefore chaos and destruction. He's also a type of trickster. God is not to be trusted, and so he's involved in illusion and deception, which are those aspects of the moon that we're going to there as well, those more negative aspects of the moon. The subconscious mind inside of us is also like that sometimes. Some people describe their subconscious minds as chaos and being full of deception and illusion. People talk about facing their personal demons, for example, when people say, I feel like I'm at war with myself. And so that's really what this is suggesting here. This can be like what comes through in the world of dreams, or more necessarily the world of nightmares, where we are faced with things that we don't want necessarily to be faced with. The wand, which is held by Set and Anubis, They're both holding these wands and facing each other. This is the wand of the phoenix, and it's a symbol of resurrection, of course, the phoenix, but it always only happens after the demons have been conquered, after the illusion has been seen through. You can't have the resurrection of the phoenix without the fire. You can't. It's a cleansing, and yet you have to pass through something in order to be cleansed. You have to understand, essentially, and move on to a different perspective. And these ones are seen again later on in the Thoth deck in the Minor Arcana, and you're going to see them all over the House of the Wands cards, of course. You can see these jackals at the base of Anubis and Set. These are the animal soul, which can be associated with the survival instinct, the fight and flight response, and the urge to procreate. And yet, in spiritual and mystical terms, these jackals are devourers. They are the destroyers of those of whom ignore the warnings of the subconscious, or Anubis on the card. And so yet again they have their association with the back of the head, that is which is not seen, the subconscious mind. And basically they are here as, in many regards, if you can see it like that, a warning. Now, a symbol here in the centre of the card, which is also seen on the Rider-Waite image, is this strange dripping symbols, and these are the symbols of Yod. And so essentially here we have 9 dripping Yods. And the 9th Sephiroth on the Tree of Life is ruled by the element of the moon, and so that's why we have that here. And they're also in the form, if one traces around them, of the glyph of Neptune. The way in which this symbol is arranged suggests that it represents a potential of life that has not yet been traced around, so has not yet been manifested. And here they actually represent the symbols being inside a womb. And so they are essentially a type of blood inside the womb, so they are a potential of life, which has not been born, which has not been fertilised, and so is in many ways a potential which will not see manifestation. At the top of the card we can see a waning moon, which is in a position of a partial eclipse, and so the blue part underneath here is symbolic of the earth. Now, of particular interest here, there is a symbol in red which is actually coming through this symbol, and this is another Hebrew character. It's the character of Kaf. And we've actually seen this character before on the series and on the Thoth deck. In fact, it was the Hebrew character which showed up on the Wheel of Fortune card and had its association with Jupiter. And so here we have a symbol which seems almost out of place. It's about good fortune. It's about being optimistic. It's a card of wisdom and of travelling on the road and going all for manifestation. And so why is this here? Well, the letter Kaf here is upon the sphere eclipsing the moon, and so it is that positive influence. This is the thing that you have to reach for, and the reason that this is over the top of this image means that the energy of the moon has been overcome by you setting upon this path to manifest, setting the wheel in motion back onto the Wheel of Fortune. And so essentially you've gone into that subconscious mind. You've faced those demons, those illusions, those things that you didn't want to see, and you've put those wheels in motion to overcome them. You are over the moon, and you have got on with the manifestation that otherwise would have been here in the womb, unfertilised, unmanifested, and never to see the light of day. And so when you draw the moon, it is a very strange card, and it can be suggesting that something in your life is a deception. Something isn't what it appears to be, or isn't what it's supposed to be, and so it could be asking you to change something fundamentally within your life, or it could be saying the path you're going on isn't right here. You feel unsure about something, you don't know which path to take, which is going back to what we had on the Wheel of Fortune before. You may feel lost and you don't know where to go. More than ever though, this is talking about our shadow, our subconscious, those inner demons, these things inside of that we may not even be fully aware of, and yet we have an instinctive distrust of. It's a type of destructive energy, and yet what's quite interesting with the Thoth deck is that these symbols of the god rolling the sun to represent a rebirth and a new birth, which actually, if you look at the sun, comes up to pierce that womb. So it's saying that these things can be manifested. You know, you can overcome this energy. And the symbol of Kaf, the Wheel of Fortune, being imprinted over the top of the moon, suggesting that these things can be overcome. And so there is a positive aspect to the moon here on the Thoth deck, but it needs you to act, it needs you to be prepared to go into that subconscious mind and to not be afraid of what you find there.